ज्ञानियों के शुद्ध मनों में, साधकों के चिंतनों में, मेरी आस मेरे श्वास तुझ में ही समाए। साचा रूप साचा रंग मन में दिखाए, प्रकाशित हृदय में ईश्वर।
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, but we can't see you.
Okay. Sahana vavatu sahanau bhunaktu sahaviryam karavavahai tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Today we are going to start a new chapter, the essence really of trying to understand all about thinking, which is what is knowledge. After all that we have discussed what it is not and where does it come from, surprisingly now we're going to start thinking of what is it, which I suppose you should have had right in the beginning, but we will never know what it is until we've understood what it is not. So let us see if this chapter throws any light on what this, what knowledge is all about. What is it? What does this thing mean to gain knowledge? Okay, we studied what is conditioning, we what is from our mind, we've studied how to assess it. What is it? When you say, I want to gain knowledge, what is it? So let's read chapter 9. Are we smart gaining knowledge? Are we smarter than Google? I want to oppose the idea that the school has to teach directly that special knowledge and those accomplishments which one has to use later directly in life. The demands of life are much too manifold to let such a specialized training in school appear possible. The development of general ability for independent thinking and judgment should always be placed foremost. So Einstein has said, this is in 1936. Remember, 1936 is not 2023. Things are moving so fast now. Almost 100 years ago, he said that we cannot afford to teach our students that special knowledge and accomplishments which they have to use. Because the demands of life are too manifold, too different. 100 years later, we still haven't figured this much out. With the development of general ability for independent thinking and judgment should always be placed foremost. If he was here, he'd have liked the idea, of Vedanta University. That's exactly what we're trying to do. A little knowledge is a dangerous thing. Drink deep or sip not the Pyrenean spring, where little draughts intoxicate the brain, and drinking largely sobers us again. So say what he's trying to say is take knowledge, take a lot of it. Because if you take little bits, it'll intoxicate it. Now, little knowledge is a dangerous thing. Where little draughts intoxicate the brain, you feel you know a lot. It's a very strange thing that you pick up a little sentence here, a little sentence there, read something up on Google, and you think you're very good at the subject. So he says, drink deep or sip not. Understand it fully. See it in context. Drink deep, sip not. It's a very, very strange kind of liquor, which when you drink a lot of, your feet come back on the ground. Little knowledge makes us fly. A lot of knowledge sets us back down on ground. So these are just two quotes, sort of giving a lens into the chapter we're going to read now. Excuse me. Being more than Google. Google knows everything. Computers have terrific computing power. Then knowledge-wise, can humans be considered superior? Are we even a match? Forget being better. Are we even a match? They can beat us. Computers can beat us at chess. Are we even a match? We cannot compete either in information or computing power with our machines. Suppose we pitch our Deep Raj against a computer. Who will do mathematics faster? We cannot compete in either information or computing power with our machines. The good news is that we don't have to. There's absolutely no need. Because the human genius lies elsewhere. It is in the incorporation of ideas into principles. Amalgamated thoughts or information are called principles. This method of gaining knowledge is to be differentiated from collection of more information or additional computing power. You see, a computer has the capacity to keep a lot of information. A human being doesn't need to keep so much information because he has another ability, and that ability is amalgamation of information. So a computer can maybe keep on its hard disk any number of books which tell us stories about how somebody did something very selfish and then something, how that person was very agitated. You can have any amount of books. But all those books can simply be summarized in selfishness causes agitations. So you don't need to read all those millions of books because you figured out the amalgamation, the very principle behind it. And this is where humans score over the computers. In other words, we need not imitate Google or beat it at its game. We can move from lower types of knowledge to higher knowledge. For the aim of our incessant and lifelong learning is to constantly improve our human condition, to better our lives and those of our fellow beings. Scholastic education, reading books, referring to the net, provides information. But life is not that one-dimensional. It has a rich hue and texture. It is complex. To manage this, we need to review our very concept of knowledge, equate knowledge with sattva. So T.S. Eliot has said, where is the wisdom we have lost in knowledge? Where is the knowledge we have lost in information? Since knowledge is meant to modify our perception and behavior, there is a natural caveat. We have to start from where we are. We cannot make a sudden leap. A PhD cannot be obtained by a KG student. Her capacity to take in knowledge is restricted by her current level. I don't know why this seems to be very difficult for us to understand. Just now, as you all know, I'm in Delhi and addressing various groups here. And just now came from addressing one group. And it's a simple topic, basic topic, but they wanted to know all about whether the world was illusory or not. It seems okay for people to ask this question. Because it seems like, okay, I have a question I can ask, which is true. You have a question you can ask, no problem with that. But is it possible to even understand the answer? Our capacity to take in knowledge is restricted by our current level. Harry, the question the person was asking was about illusion. There's a concept in Vedanta about the world being Maya, which translates sometimes into English by the word illusion. So I went through the whole trouble of explaining what is Maya and this and that, and then she was just looking blankly at me, which is very understandable. How is a person who is on her first day of studying Vedanta is trying to figure out what is the concept of Maya? It's not going to happen. If somebody asks a question, you have to answer it, right? You're not going to understand a word, which is why I love Samuel Johnson's statement. I have found you an argument. I am not obliged to find you an understanding. I mean, you can tell the truth, but how are people supposed to understand it? So there's only one way to go about it, and that is to go about it
from where you are.
Step by step.
Step by step, systematically. Starting from where you are, build up gradually, take the blocks of knowledge and build it up. It's the only way to do it. There's no other way to do this. And when we say that, then people say, how can you not let me ask? Arey, Baba, you ask what you want, but the question you stay where you are. Another person asked me, what is Brahma Muhurta? That's easy enough to answer, 4 to 6. But he has been listening to other people, some of whom told him it's quarter to 4 to 4. Some people have given other times just before sunrise. And I asked me, you tell me, what is Brahma Muhurta? So I tell him, but that means nothing to him. Because so many, I said, it's not going to help going from person to person asking. He's saying, well, I'm only asking experts. Okay, but the experts are telling you different things. So how is it helping? We have to go step by step, step by step. Start at the very basics. Start with a certain school. Do that school completely. Then move to another school if you want to go to another school. Can't go here and there. I mean, I don't know why this sentence is so difficult to understand. The capacity to take in knowledge is restricted by one's current level. And yet, often, people stuck at one level insist on everyone seeing things in their particular way. But each one is at a different stage and only can grasp so much. Is this concept clear? We are restricted in learning something because of our current level. Now, whatever, the question a lady asked is, I do everything very well. And I find it very difficult that people don't align to it. I do it all correctly and other people don't do it properly. How can they? How can they? Our belief is that we are doing it correctly and other people are doing it erroneously. And it may be true. It may be true that I am doing it better than somebody else. But it's a ladder, isn't it? Somebody else is doing it better than me. So if I'm constantly looking downwards, I think I'm the greatest soul. If I look upwards, I will feel I'm a mess. So wherever we are, we tend to look at others and say, look, they're not as good as me in this. I am restricted by my level, and they're restricted by their level. Doesn't it all seem so self-evident when we talk about it in class? And yet when we go out and live life, we behave in a completely different manner. Momita, equate knowledge with sattva. Please elaborate. Momita, we did that in the last chapter. We're going to do it. We're going to do some more this chapter. What is growth in knowledge is the gaining of sattva. Remember that? Gaining of sattva is knowledge. Knowledge means that, remember sattvic knowledge also, when you're able to see the one common denominator in the whole thing. So we're discussing that now, but how you're able to see all these various elements, how they merge together. We become confused people because we're not able to see how various things join together. Like yesterday, at the talk, there was a talk at a club yesterday. Every day here I am, some engagement or the other for a talk. And we had a talk. And Malti was there. Niru was there. There was a lady. She said, tell me in one word the answer to this question. And then she spoke for 3 pages. Everything she covered. There was no question there at all. I said, to be fair, yeah, you took 3 pages to ask the question. Give me 3 words at least. Remember her? None of us are going to forget her. He had lots to say. But none of that knowledge had any picture in it. It was all in, isolated statements from all over the place. And then she finished by saying, next time you have a lecture, call me. So the organizers were really terrified and they all ran away from her. But the thing is that if we don't know how to see the higher principle or the amalgamating principle, then we become confused people because our thoughts are all over the place. There is nothing giving us a picture. Okay.
Yes, thank you, Janki. Actually, I was getting confused with the word virtue. I thought, I thought sattva was having something to do with virtue. Thank you for clarifying.
Brinda, you wanted to say something?
No.
Okay. You unmuted yourself, so.
No.
Okay. Brinda, are you new to class?
Yeah. In fact, I was given your book by Sureka, so it's probably my second class.
Oh, okay, great. So are you in Goa?
No, I just got back from Goa.
Okay. So, so our capacity to take in knowledge is restricted by where we are. A KG class student cannot be explained E is equal to MC squared. This cannot be done. Okay, so our capacity to take in knowledge is restricted by our level. Now, if we understand this, we will not expect other people to live by our knowledge, because it's not possible, right? Just as we cannot live by somebody else's knowledge. So far, so good. This chapter is going to go slowly because at every stage, you're going to have to struggle with this, every concept. Yeah. Each one is at a different stage and can only grasp so much. When we understand this, we will not attempt to thrust our knowledge down someone else's throat to impose our views on others. To learn is crucial. To learn, it is crucial to identify where one currently is, what one's current perception is. That is the current level. From there, we need to take a step forward. We have to identify where we are and take a step forward from there so that we can. And how do we identify? Through self-analysis. See our own thoughts, see our own behavior. What level are you showing? You already learned how to assess that level from the previous. So see, where am I? And therefore know what am I supposed to do next. You had a question, Mr. Ch9.1?
Yes, madam. My question was like this, like you said, somebody meeting you for the first time saying world is a mithya, please explain. Okay, that's one part. Then at times we are told in seminars or whenever we have these 7-day or 5-day sessions, please get your friends so they can get introduced to the concept of Vedanta. Just like you have benefited, they should benefit. Now, how do you explain to a layman, please come, okay, happiness and success and spiritual growth, all that, but that's all going to be Greek to them. So how do you motivate them to come on to these sessions to start this journey of spiritual growth in the line of Vedanta? How do you do it then? On one side, you say they are limited by the level of knowledge. Okay, we are somewhere. We can't explain to them. Then how do we motivate them? Because we'd like them to come on this path and benefit just like we've benefited.
Then you have to assess, as we just studied, where are they currently and take the next step forward. So maybe where they are currently is they like to hang out with you, go out for dinner with you. So you say, chalo yaar, let's go out for dinner. Before that, I have a lecture to attend. You'll come with me. Depends. No, you talk
But
to them their language.
but birds of a feather never flock together. Once you got onto this path, you will be surrounded, or you'll have a group which is into it, not into the partying crowd or the enjoying crowd or the sensual pleasure crowd. Once you shift, you automatically, that demand and supply. Your demand is spiritual, and that man's demand may be enjoying for going out for night. Okay, this statement is, I'm going for a class, fine. He'll say, okay, thank you, bye bye. How do we motivate such people? I mean, if you were to get people on, SS is very easy, he's far away. But how do you motivate? My question is the motivation part.
Yeah, but you're not holding your question. You said here is a person who is not interested. How do I bring him?
Uh,
When I answer that, then you say, no, 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 all my friends are interested. So
no, I
that
didn't say,
doesn't take us
I didn't
anywhere,
say
right?
interested in the spiritual thing. Interested in partying, I'm saying.
But you said, oh,
That's what I
your
meant.
group becomes like that when you are okay, never mind. That's what I told you. I'm going, let's go out for dinner. Before the dinner, I'm going for a lecture. Would you like, will you come? Let's come. We'll go to the lecture and then we go for dinner.
Okay. Understood. The practical situation, I wanted to just figure out how to do it. Yeah, okay.
Can
I'll
I
give it
just,
a,
Yeah, you have to see where are they and
okay.
talk their language.
Janki
They
ji,
just
can
want
I
to
come
spend
in?
time with you, go out for dinner with you. So include it in that program.
I'll try it out. Let's see how it works.
Yeah, but
Janki
you
ji,
have
can
to
I give my
first see.
experience?
Yeah, 1 second. You have to first see where they are. I made up a story of where they are. You have to see for yourself where they are. They may be in a position where they are saying, oh, I'm so stressed with work. Then you have to say, come with me to this lecture. You learn how to work without stress. Depends on where they are. You have to. It's not in a vacuum. You're having a conversation with somebody. You have to talk to the person you're talking to.
Okay, ma'am. Understood. I'll give it a try.
Okay. Brinda, you wanted to say
Yeah,
something?
I wanted to share my experience, how I came into this lecture. As friends, we do talk of our life experiences and how we have reacted or responded to different life experiences. We do get into these conversation with friends. This is how I got introduced to your lecture.
Yeah.
So I think as friends, we do discuss more than just, discussing the weather. You do discuss your life issues and challenges. Actually, that's where one can do the intervention.
Yes, that's what was. If the person says that I'm having stress because of work, then you offer it as a solution to that. Someone says I'm having a bad time with my spouse, then you offer it as a suggestion to that. You see where they are. You're having a conversation with somebody. You want to help somebody. So you talk to them. We are not evangelizing, we are not here to convert everybody to Vedanta. What we want is people learn some facts of life and benefit themselves. If you can see it as a fact, use the fact. If you can't see it as a fact, well, better luck next time. So, to learn, whether it is us or anyone else, it is crucial to know where are we right now. And based on where we are right now, we take the next step. When we take a step forward, we see more. New vistas open up. For the headlights to show further, the car has to move. Very important aspect of knowledge. You can't see more unless you move more, unless you move forward. When you move forward, you'll see more. So you learn, you do that, whatever it is you have learned. And when you do that, you'll see something more. It's just like the headlights of the car. It's showing you only a few feet ahead, but you follow that, and then you'll see a few feet further ahead. Lower and higher knowledge. First topic is clear, right? Anyone has a question on topic 1? Okay, let us Taruna, you have a question?
Yes, Mama, you said you can't see more unless you move forward. Move forward means your own effort with the information that you have taken in.
No, it's referring to your growth. You can put in effort, but you have to grow to see further.
Growth is a result. For that, we need to put in effort. So that's how it is linked in a way.
Yes, when you put in effort, sometime you will grow. Whenever you grow, you will see more.
Okay. Right. Thank you.
Lower and higher knowledge. Knowledge differs in subtlety. Further knowledge means subtler knowledge. Okay, so you move forward means what have you got? You have got subtler knowledge. What does it mean, subtler knowledge? Subtlety is defined by its pervasiveness and control. It is for this reason that classical music is considered subtler than pop. A person who knows classical music will find pop music easy. But for one who knows only pop, classical will be difficult. So too with classical literature. The more subtle or pervasive the knowledge, the more useful it becomes. Like algebraic equations or the formula of Vedic math. Vast amount of information can be stored in them. You know, right? So in arithmetic, what do you have? Somebody can add and subtract and divide and all the story. But when you go to algebra, just imagine how many answers you can get by the simple algebraic formulas. So a very small, like a few letters, has contained a lot of information. Vast amount of information can be stored in them. And a vast number of solutions or predictions can be generated. This is also seen in human relationships. When one sees only one's own point of view, one clashes with the world. But with subtler knowledge, one understands other perspectives. With it, one can see the other person's point of view, be it raising a child at home or negotiating a business deal. The more subtle the knowledge, the more one understands where another person is coming from. With higher knowledge, one is more at peace with others. Where one is standing determines, okay, this is clear, right? That the higher you raise yourself, the more other people's perspectives become clear. Am I going too fast or is it okay? Kavita, are you new to the class?
Yes, Janki ji, I have attended earlier classes, but for this one, I am new. Yes, I've just joined today.
Okay. Welcome. This chapter is going to be a little on the tougher side. So if you have any problem, please stop me and ask.
Sure, sure. Thank you, Janki ji.
Everyone's okay? So far, so good? I'm always very worried in doing this chapter because it's so abstract that it should not go completely over. You know, we must, it's abstract, but it's useful. So hopefully we are able to relate to it. I hope. Fingers crossed.
I have a question, please.
Yes, Joyce.
When you mention higher knowledge, which is more subtle, more pervasive, what about the notion, the concept that knowledge is relative? So is this higher knowledge, is it more closer to an absolute knowledge that is true, or is it also relative?
See, the grammar itself will tell you higher is a relative concept, no? So knowledge is relative. You have higher, If you're here, this is higher. If you're here, this is higher. If you're here, this is higher.
So it's relative compared to the less high, let's say the lower form of knowledge. In this sense, we call it relative.
That's right.
So it doesn't mean that the more subtle it becomes, the closer it is to some absolute knowledge. There is no such a thing.
No, it is closer to absolute knowledge, but it is not absolute knowledge. It is still higher.
Yes, okay, that's clear. Yes, thank you.
The example of classical music makes it clear, right? That why is classical music subtler than pop music? Anybody who understands classical music is able to say there's a classical singer. Then that classical singer will very easily sing any film song. But if there's a film singer, then for him singing a classical song will not be easy because he only knows that much. So when you have the higher knowledge, the entire lower thing will get covered. That's what it means by pervasive. So if you're here, you cover the lower, but the lower is lower. So it doesn't pervade the higher. The higher pervades the lower. That's why it's so whatever pervades, like for instance, take the mind. The mind goes wherever it goes. So why is the intellect higher? Because the intellect can go everywhere where the mind can go, but the mind cannot go everywhere that the intellect can go. Means the intellect can go into the unknown. Mind can only go into the known. If that example was complicated, forget it. I only said it on the grounds that most people already have studied that idea. So the more subtle or pervasive the knowledge, we finish that. So with the higher knowledge, one is more at peace with others. Where one is standing determines what one is looking at. The buyer looks at it in one way, the seller in the other. If you're buying a car, what price do you want it to be? And if you're selling that car, what price do you want it to be? So the buyers will always look at it in one way, and the seller will always look at it in another way. So where one is standing determines what one is seeing. When one puts oneself in the other's position, that stance will become self-evident and inevitable. When one understands it, one can deal with it. As knowledge becomes subtle, its approximation to reality changes. Whether true or appropriate, what is true or appropriate for one level or stage may not hold so for another. Not cognizing this would create an error of mixture of levels. A child draws a picture of a house. It is made of 5 lines. It is much appreciated by parents and grandparents. If she draws the same picture 20 years later, their response will be different. If she studies architecture, her drawings will be very different. So, can we say that the first picture, the childish scribble, was wrong? Or the one that the architect now does is ultimate? Can there not be better? Both the childish scribble and the architectural drawing are limited. Similarly, all knowledge is limited. For knowledge is a continuum. The earlier parts are called ignorance, and the later parts are called knowledge. But all the stages are limited until one knows the ultimate truth. Higher and lower knowledge are relative terms. Like on a ladder, the higher step itself becomes the lower step when one climbs further. When the different gradations of knowledge are not cognized, confusion arises. If we mix levels, paradoxes are generated. A paradox is a set of statements both true and contradictory. Consider the childish riddle of the two fathers and the two sons who went fishing. They each caught a fish, and they came back with 3 fish. This seems impossible. This paradox is resolved once one realizes that the two fathers and the 2 sons were just grandpa, dad, and son. Once one gains the knowledge of the relationship between the parties, the paradox is resolved. Is this making sense? Thus Einstein says, well, it's attributed to Einstein. One never knows what of this is true, but this is attributed to Einstein. Thus Einstein says that the biggest problems of our day cannot be solved by the same kind of thinking that created them. Such a brilliant statement it is. The biggest problems of our day cannot be solved by the same kind of thinking that created them. If you look back on that example of the 2 fathers and the 2 sons who went fishing, the kind of thinking that makes you think that 4 people went, as long as you stay with that, you never solve it. You have to change the type of thinking if you have to solve the problem. Our problems and challenges of the day are from a particular paradigm. That must change for the problem to be solved. Consider dealing with animals. A dog's paradigm is attack or run. It wins or loses. Those who are good at dealing with animals neither pander to the pets nor bully them. They treat them with what Caesar, the dog whisperer, calls calm energy. Have you all ever heard, have you all seen Caesar, the dog whisperer? Yeah? If you haven't, then I recommend you look at it. I'm sure it must be there on YouTube or something. I mean, it is very clear that these pet owners who are not able to deal with their pets and have, made a mess of that relationship, they are not able to deal with those pets because of the paradigm from which they come. So Caesar comes in, Caesar is that chap's name, and changes the paradigm. He changes it from, oh, I must do everything that the pet wants or not do everything the pet wants and all this various complicated confusion that goes on in people's head. He changes that into this calm, what he calls calm energy. And then there isn't a problem. That's the kind of thing we have to get. A really bad example of this, but since you're Vedanta students also, I can say this here. A really bad example is, when we think of how was the world created? And there doesn't seem to be an answer. Even if you say that it was created by the Big Bang, still doesn't answer, right? Because what is the theory of the Big Bang? That all the matter was all condensed into like maybe 1 teaspoonful of matter or something. And then there was massive explosion. And then the universe started. Okay. But then all you know is that, that, suppose we accept this to be true, you know that from that teaspoonful of matter, the universe came. We still don't know where did that teaspoonful of matter come from. And maybe you'll explain that by maybe something like a string theory or something like that. You'll explain it away. But then you still have to explain the rest. So every time we try to answer it like that, all we seem to do is shift it a little backwards. That's all we seem to do. But when you shift the paradigm itself, you question whether the world exists at all. You go into the theory of Maya. For those who are not familiar with it, please ignore this example. But for those who are familiar with it, if you go into the theory of Maya, then why do you have to explain how the world came about? If you say that this world is much like the dream you had in last night's dream, when you woke up, that dream disappeared. So you don't have to explain how did it come. It changed the paradigm. Please, we're not discussing this example, so don't go there. It's a very bad example because it gives a much more complicated illustration. But for those who have already studied this, it's just given to show you how by changing the paradigm, the question is no longer relevant. So the same kind of thinking will not solve the problem. You need a different type of thinking. So when they treat them with what Caesar called, the dog whisperer calls, calm energy. This enables one to have a suitable relationship with the pet, rather than either to be frightened of animals or love them till they're out of control. Gaining higher knowledge enables one to think further. For instance, a person desires money. As his thinking improves, he can think of better and better ways of making money. But as he gains even higher knowledge, his thoughts stretch further. He can consider the consequences of getting more money. George Bernard Shaw writes in Man and Superman, 1903, there are two tragedies in life. One is to lose your heart's desire. The other is to gain it. We are chasing things, but have we considered the outcome of getting them? There are consequences of achieving the goal, just as there are consequences of not achieving the goal. So, we are in Mumbai. I live in Mumbai. Mumbai houses, we have buildings, things like that. I'm sure most of you. Anybody here has not been to Mumbai? Anyone here? You've not been to Mumbai, Deepraj, you must come one day. It's a beautiful city, if you like that kind of beauty. So, basically, it's pretty dirty, and there's buildings, and the buildings haven't been painted, and nobody has any time over here because, it's a megapolis, it's massive. And people are running from pillar to post, and it's the financial capital, and everybody's interested in making money. That's why Vedanta doesn't work in Mumbai at all. Rest of the world, everybody's interested. Mumbai, nobody. So now, all of us who live in Mumbai, we live in this concrete jungle. The trees are dust-ridden. They don't even look green. For a few trees that there are, don't even look green. Until the monsoons come and they get a nice wash for the year. Once a year, they get nicely washed. Now you come to Delhi. Delhi is beautiful, big boulevards and lots of trees. And I am staying with Niru, and Niru has a lawn, and in Niru's lawn come peacocks. It's the exotic place, right? The peacocks have come, and Niru's maid says, these peacocks, they're eating all my vegetables up. I planted them and they ate up they're pecking at my vegetables. She's grumbling about the peacocks coming into the garden. For us, we are like, wow, peacock in the garden. You are going to see what it is. For her, it is, she wants to chase them away. Obviously, they're eating up her. She plants all the, they are pecking at her. So, anyone in Mumbai can say, wow, what a great life it is in Delhi. These lovely bungalows, and they have nice lawns, and on the lawns, peacocks come. If you consider Delhi to be beautiful, and I'm absolutely terrified to go to Mumbai, yeah, be terrified. And then we can offer you ocean though. I mean, trees is not our thing, but we have ocean. So, can you imagine? Suppose you sold everything in Mumbai, okay? And you bought a beautiful house in Delhi, and then you made had a beautiful lawn, and the peacocks came. And then you realize, oh my God, these peacocks, they make so much noise. So, if you have a good intellect, you will figure out how to fulfill your desires. But if you have an even better intellect, you will figure out what will be the consequence of fulfilling that. Because when you approach something, you look at something, it looks very beautiful. But as you approach it, as you grow closer to it, you begin to see what it really is. And what it really is rarely what you thought it was going to be. The best example of this has to be
marriage.
Yes. These bachelors know too much, I tell you. That's why they're bachelors. Yes, you say, oh my God, this is the love of my life. If I marry this person, then everything is going to be sorted. Acha, get married and see. So, the good intellect is able to understand what will be the consequence of fulfilling the desires. It doesn't mean it won't fulfill, but it also understands the consequence. What else is going to come? When I get this, what is coming along with it? If you get married, Deepraj, automatically along with it will come wife's mother. Wife is there, then mother will be there as well. No? It'll come, it's part of the package deal. I should not tell these boys that, as it is, they are all going anti-marriage. But it will come. If you happen to buy a house or a flat, municipal taxes will come with it. Can you have a house and not have taxes? You'll have electricity bill, water bill, taxes. Gadgets in your house will break down. Like one man I know in Delhi, he was living in a beautiful bungalow. And when I met him, he had sold that bungalow and they moved to a flat. Very beautiful flat, of course. But I can't understand this. Why, if you had a beautiful bungalow, will you sell it and go live in a flat? Makes no sense in my eyes, because Mumbai, that flat we will sell any day and have a bungalow, and you can't afford it in Mumbai. The flats itself in Mumbai cost 100, 200 crores. What will the bungalows cost? You can't afford it. So we can only say, wow, bungalow. He sold a massive bungalow here and he moved into a flat. So I asked him, how come? Why did you, beautiful bungalow, why did you sell it and move it in the flat? He's saying, what a pain it is. Every time the pump stops working, I have to start running. Then security, pump, this, that, light, something in the building. It's so good. All these things are taken care of. So, you're welcome to buy a bungalow. You're welcome to buy a flat. Or whichever one you choose, please note something is coming along with it. For those who live in flats, what comes along with it?
Noisy
Neighbors.
neighbors.
Noisy neighbors. They will come along with it. In your bungalow, you didn't have to worry about what the neighbors were doing. But in a flat, you will have that. So, basically, if you examine it, almost any option you choose is not perfect. You can only choose whatever you like, but no option is going to be perfect. And before you choose, if we know this, then we are prepared for it. So that's what an intellect does. It is able to, low category of intellect is able to fulfill desires. A slightly better category of intellect is able to think what will happen if I fulfill that desire. Okay, so let's continue. That's what George Bernard Shaw says. There are two tragedies in life. One is to lose your heart's desire. The other is to gain it. We are chasing things, but have we considered the outcome of getting them? There are consequences of achieving the goal, just as there are consequences of not achieving the goal. So much effort is applied to becoming a star, achieving celebrity status. What amount of struggle and sacrifice. But as soon as a person becomes a star, he deplores the paparazzi, the constant attention. Did you see, what is that? Harry and Meghan? Did you all see Harry and Meghan? She struggled to become a star. She must have had some struggles and sacrifices to become Harry's wife. But what came with it? They both hated it, whatever came with it. That's what they claim, and that's what they say. What amount of struggle and sacrifice. But as soon as a person becomes a star, he deplores the paparazzi, the constant attention. But when he asked for stardom, did he not know what comes with it? One wants a partner, but not the lifestyle changes that go with it. How? One wants a very pretty, glamorous partner, but not the high maintenance that goes with it. How? Buying a house means spending time, energy, and money looking after it. It means weeding the garden, dealing with the staff, paying bills and taxes, and a whole lot of other things. So what? You can buy a house or you can rent it. These are your two options. Buy a place or rent a place. If you buy a place, then these are your advantages, these are your disadvantages. If you rent a place, then these are your advantages, these are your disadvantages. You must know both sides, right, before you take a call. Only if one is agreeable to the whole package should that achievement be undertaken. When we don't do that, we spend our life grumbling about the things that we have worked hard to get. One gets to pay higher taxes because one has a higher income. One has to wash and put away so many clothes because one has them. One can always choose not to get them. Then one grumbles about not having them. And so grumbling becomes a lifestyle. Higher knowledge reviews goals and aspirations. It goes to first principles. Progress is impossible without change. And those who can't change their minds can't change anything, says the great George Bernard Shaw. When one thus starts considering the whole picture, one develops what are known as values. Values refers to what a person deems important, to his understanding of life. When that is adjusted, there is no further grumbling or agitation. Our values tell us what goals we should strive for. When we understand consequences of lower goals, our values rise to higher ones. Just as when the light source rises, it lights up more. Your lamp lights up maybe 1 foot around it. The stadium lights light up the stadium. But the sun lights up the earth. So the higher the light, the more it lights up. Yes, Taruna.
Ma'am, this line, it goes to the first principle in the earlier paragraph. What does it mean?
Sorry, say that again?
In the last paragraph, the last line says, it goes to the first principle. What does that mean here?
First principles are the basic principles, the foundational principles. So the higher the knowledge is, the more you go to foundational principles. Like higher knowledge reviews goals and aspirations, right? So when you review your goal, and what is your first goal? Let us say I want to become a millionaire, right? So then what is the first principle? The first principles over here, by the time you reach to it, is the greater the selfishness, the greater the mental agitations. So everything was selfish, 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 and then you expect to go to work and not be stressed. How can this ever happen? So by the time you start from, I want to become a millionaire, or I want my company to be so big and all of that, until you come to the eventual first principle that if the motivation in my work is so selfish, stress is going to be part of the deal.
Right.
So that's the first principle.
So review the goals means, with the example which we have given, we don't see, at every stage, if we don't check, we'll be grumbling. So when we gain the higher knowledge, we review what actually should be our goals.
That's right.
And that's how you review means that's how it goes backward and stick to the first principles. It goes to first.
It traces itself back to the first. As the intellect grows, it traces back to the first principles.
So in that case, it can be changed. Your goals can be changed in that sense.
Of
with
course.
the habit first. Yeah. You see whether it is worth it or not, or it can be altered, anything.
Yeah. Okay, so that's it for today. Hari Om.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hari Om.
you.
Thank you,
Janki,
Janki.
this one, Janki,
Yeah, Mahesh?
next Thursday we'll have GD, right?
Yes, that's right. No, wait. Next Thursday is what date?
Oh no, 30th. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, next Thursday is
Sorry.
class.